I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me.
The sun was shining and I was strolling through the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling, and the fog was lifting, our voices singing. This land was made for you and me.
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me.
I've roamed and rambled, I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts, and all around me that voice was calling. It was saying this land was made for you and me.
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water.
This land was made for you and me. Made by the millions who are here before us, strengthened today by you and me, for the thousands of different jobs we do. Jobs that fill the needs of living. Jobs that provide more than the bare necessities of life. The fruits of labor. Leisure. The extra things. Luxuries, big and small. An ice cream cone? Sure, that's a luxury. A silk party dress? Yep, that's one too. And the new family car, a necessity to lots of us, but only because we've made it such an important part of our standard of living. Uh-oh. Still, even so, don't knock the traffic jam. It took a lot of people a lot of years to create it. Union conditions made the family car possible, for the unions helped make paid holidays and vacations a commonplace in America. And that's how traffic jams were born. This man and the 13.5 million like him today in the AFL-CIO, American union men and women who can afford to buy what they produce, they have made a great contribution. How great? Where did it begin? Look back, farther back, to the beginning.
Rejoice, Columbia sons, rejoice.
The sons of liberty, revolution, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. The Union forever. A union that involved workmen from the very start. In 1774 in Philadelphia, the first meeting of the new Continental Congress was held here in Carpenter's Hall to hammer out, to nail together a Declaration of Independence. Said one of the delegates around that time, a printer named Benjamin Franklin, "We must all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately." The workmen who hung together were really master craftsmen, artisans. No assembly line then. One man was a factory. A man and his tools were a business. A revolution fought and won. Then, spreading like fire before the wind, a different kind of revolution. Machines replacing hands. Machines for spinning, for harvesting. The reaper. The cotton gin. The Industrial Revolution.
In 1841 I put me corduroy breeches on, I put me corduroy breeches on to work upon the railway. Pillamee-arry-orry-ay, pillamee-arry-orry-ay.
With the Industrial Revolution, we blossomed out. No more walking through the wilderness. The growing country grew 7-league boots, machines over the land, over the water. A fellow named Morse even sent words traveling. The vast new country, spreading, opening up, there for everybody and everybody free and equal. Everybody?
And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. They'll be singing, they'll be singing, they'll be singing over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
Another victory for the freedom and dignity of man. A revolution in industry. More factories. Once again, the rush of the frontier. There for the taking, boys. The land was free. And immigration. People. More and more, eager, hopeful, rushing like a vast tidal wave to the new land. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses. Rich, spilling over. And why so rich, so bulging with the good things of life? Not only because of the land with room for all, it was industry. It was the mills, the plants, the factories. Factories made of brick and stone to stand hard use. But those who worked in them, they were flesh and bone. They too were used hard. Then a textile worker was paid 11 cents an hour, 11 hours a day, 6 days a week. Children got much less, and they too worked from dawn to dark.
Where the mill was made of marble, the machines were made out of gold, and nobody ever got tired.
The workers yearned for a better life, for dignity, and they united. By 1886, with Samuel Gompers at the helm, the American Federation of Labor was launched on a new era of trade unionism.
You cannot weigh a human soul in the same scales with a piece of pork. The union is a voluntary association of many for the benefit of all.
Still, a worker could be fired if he joined the union. He could be blacklisted, never get a job again. And as for better wages, in the courts, a conspiracy. So they met in secret when they had to. They stood together, and some fell together. New York City, 1911. An average day. On an upper floor of a factory building, a fire broke out. The people inside, mostly young girls, ran to a door to get out.
I watched the upper floors burning and the girls hanging by their hands and then dropping. One girl jumped and her clothing caught on a hook that stuck out from the wall. The fire burned through her clothing and she fell and was killed. It was an awful, awful sight to see them dead on the sidewalk. So many of my friends.
For 13 weeks before the fire, the union had been on strike. 2 of the union's demands were adequate fire escapes and open doors. They lost. The strike was broken. Death toll at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, 154 dead, mostly young girls. From death came public indignation, legislation, fire escapes. Charleston contests and speakeasies, raccoon coats and Stutz Bearcats. Ticker tape prosperity as phony as a house of cards. Make $1 million on paper. For the laboring man, no real gains. He was still scrambling, a second-class citizen. Collapsed. Gone. The wild ride over. The balloon burst. The depression. Everything down the drain. Banks failed, closing their doors. Stores failed, closed, bolted. Industry, factory, mills, plants, all across the country shut down, closed. The fire escapes were worthless now. Plenty of merchandise, plenty of things to sell, but who had the money to buy? When production is greater than ability to buy, that's a depression. 12 million unemployed, 15, 17 million.
No place to go, no way to turn. You get riled up sometimes, anger spilling over, like the dairy farmers fighting over the price of milk, when nobody could buy it anyways. You dread about the foreclosures. Farms put under the hammer for non-payment of mortgage. You dread they'd come close to lynching federal judges who issued the foreclosures. Most of all, you felt it inside. It wasn't only your belly that was hungry. You felt a uselessness, like you weren't a man anymore.
1930, 31, 32, the bottom. There had been panics before, depressions. Not like this, never like this.
I pledge myself to a new deal for the American people.
A new voice? Pledging what? Some sort of new deal? And people listened. They weren't sure. A voice saying we could be let out of it. But saying was one thing, campaign talk. What would happen when he got in? November 1932, elected. January 1933, February 1933, March, inauguration.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Out of the wilderness, the NRA, and new rights for labor. Since 1893, organized labor had sought relief for the unemployed. Now it came. The Public Works Administration, the CCC, the WPA, the Social Security Act, the climax of labor's long struggle for old age benefits and protection for the worker's family, insurance against the disaster of mass unemployment, and much more. A federal law that put a ceiling over hours and a floor under wages. 44 hours a week, 25 cents an hour. And for the first time in American history, the United States said that organized labor was right. Workers could join together without fear to seek better wages, better hours and conditions. Join together openly, democratically. Rights and a challenge. Now labor had its first real chance. The labor unions grew, doubled, trebled. Workers who before had been afraid joined in. Labor bettered hours and conditions of work in industries long unorganized, in huge mass production plants. All labor benefited. Wherever work was, wherever skilled hands fashioned or wrought or joined, all reaped the benefit. Wages, hours, safety regulations, workmen's compensations. For all the harvest of labor.
This train, this train, this train, this train.
24 hours a day in World War II. 7 days a week, labor built the planes, tanks, guns, ships.
This train is bound for glory. This train is bound for glory. This train is bound for glory. Don't carry nothing but the rights and the holy. This train is bound for glory. This train don't carry the gamblers. This train don't carry no gamblers. This train don't carry no gamblers. No crap shooters, no midnight ramblers. This train don't carry no gamblers. This train is leaving in the morning. This train is leaving in the morning. This train is leaving in the morning. Great God, a new day dawning. This train is leaving in the morning. This train.
Free men outproduced slave labor. Free soldiers buried Hitler and Tojo and won a war.
Round, round, hit this grave, round, round we go. Gonna lay that poor boy down, he won't get up no more. Round, round, hit this grave, round, round we go. Gonna lay that poor boy down, he won't get up no more.
This is today. This is a union man, his home, his family. There are millions like him. Once they walked alone, full of fear and insecurity. Today it's different. Labor unions have brought dignity and pride. This is what that larger paycheck means, not to a man as an employee, but as a husband, a father. Dignity, pride, security. The fruits of the long struggle. And not alone for union members, but for all Americans. Take this town. Pleasant, attractive, quiet streets, solid houses, owned by union members. The union man is part of his community. When the union betters his wages, those wages are spent in that community. When his standard of living goes up, his neighbor's goes up. Yours, mine, all benefit. And that's not all. Take our schools. For over a century, the labor unions led in the fight for good public schools. A century ago, this lad might well have been working from dawn to dusk. Now there are laws against child labor. That weekend, those holidays, the vacation you enjoy, the vacation with pay, for all these, organized labor worked. Is the place where you work bright and clean, safe? Organized labor demanded and got safety regulations, a lot more than fire escapes. Accident insurance, unemployment insurance, insurance against illness, pensions. Unions and enlightened management in meetings like this solve their problems. A century ago, it used to be too old to work, too bad. Now the unions provide retirement care. Today, there are union-run trade schools. For instance, this one. Our ultra-modern atomic energy industry demands new special skills. They're taught at this union plumbing and pipe fitting school. Careful of that pipe, it costs $1,500 a foot. Another school for the children of union members. Summer schools, even vacation resorts, owned and run by the union. Whole families come here. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And not for themselves alone. When earthquakes hit Chile, the very first relief sent came from organized labor, the AFL-CIO. Relief, blood banks, charity. More than a third of the money donated to charity comes from the union man. Well, we've seen briefly the beginnings of the trade union movement in this country, its growth and its effect upon us as a nation, as a people. What about tomorrow? Let's turn to Washington, D.C. Few men are better qualified to talk about this than the president of the AFL-CIO, George Meany. We've come a long way since Sam Gompers, haven't we, Mr. Meany?
Yes, labor has come a long way, and so has our country. We are proud of our record, proud that we have played a part in the progress of the United States. We are committed to the proposition that what is good for America is good for the labor movement. That's how we want to move ahead, all of us moving together toward a better way of life. We can't be satisfied with things as they are. Despite all the progress we have made, there is much that remains to be done. Here in the richest country on earth, we still have an intolerable unemployment problem. We haven't learned how to handle our material resources, our productive genius, in a way that will provide useful jobs for all. And we must. We have the highest wage scales in the world, yet millions of workers are still not protected by any minimum wage law. Many Americans are paid less than they need just to exist. We have a Social Security system providing pensions for most workers, but we still haven't faced up to the fact that severe illness can and does destroy the security that these pensions are supposed to provide. Our older citizens must have protection against that threat. On the surface, we have won our fight for free public education. But look below the surface, and you find bad schools, not enough teachers, and poor pay for those we have. We have racial segregation and discrimination, despite the inspired rulings of the Supreme Court. These evils must be stamped out in the schools, in housing, on the job, and in the unions everywhere in America. In the last 2 years, we have had a new forward movement, but it has not come fast enough or far enough. We must do better if we are to provide full opportunity for today's job seekers and the youth of tomorrow. And it's not just a matter of our own people. The United States, by the sure process of historical development, has become the leader of the free world. We must fulfill that obligation. We cannot content ourselves with looking back at old accomplishments. We must constantly work for something better. I know we can do it. Here in America, we have the resources, human as well as material. We have the know-how. We have the hands of workers, united as Americans, working to build a brighter, better, and richer future for all.
Here is the future, brighter, better, richer. They are the future. This boy, this girl, these two. Here, for them, we must take our uncertain world. We must shape it for them into something much, much better. A new age is upon us, challenging, bold, unprecedented, exciting. Reaching out with our hearts, with our minds, with our hands. We must give those who follow us more life, more liberty, and a never-ending, everlasting pursuit of happiness.
For you and me,
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me.
I roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond desert, while all around me a voice was chanting, this land was made for you and me.
This land is your land, this land is my land.
from California to the New York Island,
From the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water,
This land was made for you and me. This land is your land.